Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today, I'm gonna answer the long-lived question on how royalty started. This is like a thing that I've answered with snippets of the story from when I first started to when we're in the middle to where we're at the end. I've answered it quite a few times, but I figured let's just make an entire video dedicated to how I started the royalty exotic cars business and what it led to along the way. So let's start off first. This is about 2013, 14. My nephew and I, Atwood, he lived in my house. We lived together. And we had made this tiny little business plan about how I'm gonna drive a Lamborghini for free. It's really funny because when I look back that far and I think about it, I realized how naive I really was. But I wrote a list down and I had a Gallardo, I had a 430, I had a BMW M6, I had all these like small sports cars, nothing over $200,000 at the time really. And I made a plan how I was gonna rent these. I took them to my dad, my uncle for advice, not for money because they don't have any, but everybody thought I was absolutely batshit crazy. So at the time I was a cable guy. I was working for CenturyLink and Cox Cable. I did piecework. So what that means is I kind of contracted for all the cable companies around, and I went and did the outside line work, and I traveled to North Carolina, to Hawaii, all these different places, got contracts and gigs for 2-3 months at a time. And it was a great job. I mean, at one point I was making upwards of $5,000 a week, which is pretty epic in my early 20s, right? And those were where it was disaster work or strike work, right? Normally, cable guys made between $3,000 and $3,500 a week if you worked 7 days. Now you were allowed to work 13 on, 1 off. And it was a pretty cool job when I wasn't single. I was still early days with my wife. Me and my wife met back in 2011, I think. It was epic though. She would travel with me and we would go through that. But obviously things in that industry were like a roller coaster because there was never consistency in work in one place. So you had to be willing to move around. In early 2000 or late 2014, I was injured. I got rear-ended by a Hummer H2 and I had a little Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works, and I broke a lower portion on my back. And that portion in my lumbar was impossible for me to put this big ladder on my shoulder again. So I couldn't compress, and I still can't do it to this day. I needed a back surgery and I had to have a fusion, but I refused to do that. And I kind of was like, I'm just gonna change my line of work. So at the time, I had a 2015 GTR, right? Now, it was a $2,000 car payment. It was red. I had carbon trunk. It was super cool. It was like the perfect car, right? And I still remember the first moment I bought that car. But when my unemployment started, right, it was okay. I mean, here I was getting $400 a week. So all my only real bills were just the car payment and like gas and stuff. And so I had like $40,000 in savings. That lasted about 4.5 months. And I really started to get worried because I wasn't really able to get another job. I applied at like every nightclub, every, day club, a lot of casino valet jobs, anything that didn't require me like lifting anything. And literally I did not get hired for any job at all. Like I went to the crappiest nightclub in all of Las Vegas called The Act at the time. And I swear it was like a shoo-in. Anybody who applied got the job and I did not get the job. So I guess that tells you maybe it wasn't meant to be, or maybe I'm just not a very good interviewer. So I have this car and I'm driving around Las Vegas. I'm about to meet my wife for lunch because she was working Hakkasan. It's a nightclub here in Vegas. And she just got off work and we were meeting to have breakfast, lunch-ish. This place opened at like 10:30, 11 on Las Vegas Boulevard. So I drive from my house, which is in like the west side of the city, down Las Vegas Boulevard. And I was a little early, so I just took the like a long way. And I passed by a portion of the strip right in front of the MGM Grand, right kind of catty corner to the Park MGM, what it is today. And there was a white GTR outside and 2 Ferrari 360 Modinas. And they all had, like, it didn't say for rent, it said drive me. And I thought, man, that's really interesting. I'm gonna see if I could rent my GTR. So I go to every car rental company in the city after my lunch, and literally every single person said, no, a Nissan GTR is not a good rental car. No one's gonna pay for a Nissan. We want Ferraris and Lamborghinis. And I'm thinking, man, like, you guys are so wrong about this car. But I'm not discouraged. I actually go back to the place to where I saw the white one. That particular place was just like kind of like a little parking lot off of Las Vegas Boulevard. It was like a sidewalk cutting off, and these two guys were out there charging $100 for you to drive the car for basically like 2 miles, right, with one of the employees in the passenger seat. So kind of like you're just walking by and they're like, drive this Ferrari right now, give me $100 and you can just drive it around the parking lot, basically. Essentially, that's what it was. And I thought it was really wild and crazy and probably stupid, but there were so many people willing to pay for that. I go to the guy and I'm like, hey man, I'm selling my red GTR here. It's a really cool car. It's very similar to the white one you have. Are you interested in buying it? Because I have a really expensive car payment and I really don't want it anymore. I'll make you a really good deal. And he said, no, I don't want to buy the car. I already have a GTR, and but if you want to rent it, you're welcome to just stay here next to my GTR. And after I rent my 3 cars, you can rent yours and you give me half. And I was like, wow. I literally went home like super excessively excited because I had remembered a couple years ago that I had made this like little business plan about renting cars. And I thought, there's no way this is real. Like, this guy's gonna let me rent his car and I'm gonna get half the money, which I was thinking I could make $300 every day, right? If I rented it 6 times, I get $300, they get $300, and everything's cool. And that replaces my income that I had as a cable guy. Well, the first week went great. I actually made more than $300 a day. I was making like $500 a day. And I was having the time of my life. I mean, I was sitting in the back seat of the GTR because with the GTR I had 4 seats. And so I'm letting like a husband and wife take the car. We have like a little route, and I made mine a little longer than the other guys so that like I had like a little advantage, and I had some more repeat customers, and it was pretty dope, right? So a couple weeks are going by and I'm having a great time. I even took pictures of all the money that I was making back in the day. I was showing my wife. I said I couldn't believe it, like $500, $600. I mean, I think even one day I did like 19 rentals, like 19 drives. It was like a weekend with a fight. It was just nonstop. I mean, I was working from 8 in the morning to midnight, 1 in the morning, and it was just 7 days a week, no time off, nothing. It was wild. And then the guy that ran that place, his name was Asi. He came and someone approached him about putting scooters next to my car, that they wanted to pay the same thing, where they were going to give him half if they rented the scooters next to where my car was. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna let this happen. It's like some sleazy scooter seller guy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna make any money now. All my customers are gonna go to the other side of the parking lot where they had their GTR, and it was gonna be like game over. It's like, it was like a terrible thing for me. So I told Asi, I said, dude, no worries. I will do it. I'm doing the scooters. I got it covered. So I had a few $1,000, and basically I went to the scooter store and I bought 6 of these like Zoomer scooters. They were like pretty cool looking. And I put the most astronomical price tag on them. $10 an hour, okay? Which in the grand scheme of things, like the market price for a scooter back in 2015 was $20 for 24 hours, right? So it's basically like 75 cents an hour was the market price, and I put $10. I just wanted to rent my GTR and be completely done with this. Put the scooters there. If they rent it, they rent it. If not, it didn't matter. Well, turned out people liked that $10 per hour because they were giving me $10 for 1 hour. And I was like, these people are they're so stupid. Why would they pay this much? But no one did any research. They were just walking by, seeing a scooter, seeing $10. They were hot. It was 100+ degrees outside. They just wanted to get down the street, eat something, come back, or go to a store or Caesar's Palace or whatever. And I thought, wow, like you guys are willing to pay $10 for 1 hour? People would give me a $10 bill, picture their driver's license, take off on the scooter, come back in like 4 or 5 hours, and then give me another $50. Be like, oh, I had the time of my life. So I got to thinking, I was like, wait, this is a real thing? So I made this list of all these places like Pawn Stars and Rick's Restorations and Count's Customs and every place that you could imagine in Vegas that was on like the A&E channel or Discovery Channel. We had a whole bunch of like TV show places. And I made this list and I said, if you guys go to all these places, you can get to them on the scooter. It's a whole day trip. People would come back in 10 hours, pay me $100 for this scooter that is like literally worth $20 a day. So those 6 scooters turned into 50 scooters like literally overnight. And like the GTR ended up going in the back, and I started making like $20,000 a week renting scooters. That was gross. I had to give half to Aussie, and I had to pay for insurance and all this other extra stuff. So I wasn't making like a lot more money than like the car, but per day, but I was making a lot more revenue, and it was less liability because like the scooter was essentially a bicycle. There was no license plates. There was no, driver's license or helmet required. Sorry, motorcycle license or helmet required. So it was like a really easy business. So like I kind of transitioned into that, and I thought, well, I've got some money saved up. I've always wanted to buy a Gallardo. Why don't I trade the GTR for a Gallardo? I can drive it for myself. And then if I find like a really cool person, I'll let them drive that car and I'll sit in it, right? So I'll raise the price. I'll do $250 for the Gallardo, right? And then I'll keep renting the scooters, and it'll be my predominant way of business. I did that. And then like, this is like the middle of July. The city came and were like, you're not licensed to rent cars here to these guys. And I look at them, I'm like, what? And apparently they had a license that was off the strip, and their location that they were at, they were using for marketing. But because we were giving people the cars in that spot, it was like a rental place, and the city came in and was like, you need to fix this. So basically a month goes by and they make amends with the city, and we go back, right? So we get to go back there and everything is all kosher again. We continue to rent cars. Now scooters are going out. I got a Slingshot, which was like the first one, and started to rent the Slingshot to the same scooter customer, except this way it was a little bigger, a little safer, and it was obviously more expensive. It was $300 for 4 hours, and then $600 for the whole day. That worked very, very well. And I got like kind of like a big head, I was successful. I had a lot of like cash flow coming in. Things were going well. And I was like, I came home and I told my wife that this was a really good business. I really like this business. And then like I started to kind of like invest more money into it. I added an Audi R8. I added a Maserati convertible. Things that I could easily finance with like $10,000, $15,000 down. Nothing like super crazy, but basically like anything around like $80,000 to $100,000 cars. And it started to go relatively well. And then I wanted to like move it up to the big game. But doing all of that, adding all of those cars, I started to incur a lot more expense, right? Which is kind of a confusing thing, because a lot of people, when they start their business, they see cash flow, but they don't see the end, right? So we see the daily revenue on the Lamborghini or the daily revenue on the Maserati or whatever it is. But when you service that car, when you sell that car, when you insure that car, it becomes a totally different game. And I started getting these massive service bills. Like I took the Maserati to the Maserati dealer, had a $14,000 repair. And I was like, what? That was more money than I had made on the car in the whole month, right? It was like a month and a half's worth of revenue. And that kind of like, I pumped the brakes real quick. That was like the first big one. I was like, whoa. Because don't forget that I'm splitting this money with these guys. So I'm getting 50% of the gross revenue. And when I had to incur that $14,000 expense, it was like a knife. It was like, it hurt so bad because we maybe grossed $18,000, $19,000 a month from that car, right? Renting it almost every single day. This is the middle of the summer. Convertibles, 4-seater, it was a great car. But once I gave them half, then paid the insurance, I was left with like $6,000, $7,000. And then I had a $2,000, like $1,600 car payment, right? I had $4,000 left. Now, if I just had the $4,000, it would have been great. But when I had to pay the 14, it was a huge problem. So then I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. So I went to, Aussie and I said, hey man, like we need to split this service bill. And I don't know, he just was not happy about that. His position was he was the landlord and that was the way he made his money. He didn't care what happened with the car. And like, I paid the bill. I wasn't happy. And I was like, this is not cool. Like, I don't really think this is the way I should do this. So that was like the first step to me starting my own rental company. That one service bill. Then one of the cars got into an accident, and that was like the final straw. It was more of an incident, but it was expensive. And so that being said, I was completely done. I took all my cars, and I'll save the drama, but there was a lot of drama back and forth. And at the time, Aussie had rearranged his fleet with basically only had 2 cars, and I had like 6. So I was making all of the money, right? All of the revenue was coming from me. I owned all the scooters, I owned the slingshots, I owned most of the cars, right? He had a 458 and I think one of the 360s still. And then that was it. And I was like, you know, I wasn't getting a portion of anything else, and I was giving up half my money. So that's how I found the 4305 building at Royalty. I went to the landlord there, and basically I told him, you know, I said, I've been renting cars on this side over here, and I want to branch off on my own. And this particular space on Dean Martin had about, it was a PPF place, had about like a 5-car garage, right? Now you can fit 25 cars in here or 20 cars in here. But when it had like a lot of offices and it had a lot of like space, but it was designed for like clear bra and window tint. So there was space, but there wasn't a lot of space. And a few of the rental car companies in town had looked at this space and they all passed on it because they were like, well, I have no place to store my cars. And I thought that that was really crazy, because when the landlord asked me if there was enough storage, I said, why do I need storage? I'm gonna rent the cars. I'm not a car storage facility. And like me being so naive, basically thinking I was gonna rent the cars every single day, allowed me to rent this place and not think about any of the times where I wasn't gonna rent them. Turned out that I did need a little bit more space in the future, but when I rented this place, I signed the lease and I sold my house. And I went home, I basically told my wife that I need all of the equity that I have, all of our savings, every single thing. I need all of the money because I'm literally starting my own car rental company. And basically, I don't even think she responded. I think she just laughed at me. I really don't know. Anyways, we had like a small conversation, and I kind of convinced her, and we basically said that she was going to help me, partner with me, work at Royalty. It was going to be me and her, and we were going to start our own business. So we put our house on the market, we sold it, we got about $75,000, I think, $80,000 from our equity, and I bought a red Huracan. That was what we call Betsy. That was our 200,000 mile Huracan that I reluctantly sold about 1.5 years ago, but it was cool. Like it was time, you know, but it was a little sentimental for me. I sold the house, I moved it to a small rental. I literally drove, I borrowed my friend's Fiat 500 little electric car. I drove it to and from my house every day. I work 7 days a week here. And like, I'm a year into this business and it's doing well, right? Everything is okay. I've got cars, people are renting them. I put a big sign in the front of the building and it's all going well. And then basically like one day, like my competitors, I changed the business to unlimited miles. And one day, like when they decided to copy me, then like things started to struggle a little bit. You know, I had to like market and do these crazy things. And so I started making early YouTube videos. Like these are the first videos on this channel. They were like how to operate a car, right? And I started making these videos, and like the slingshot one got like 2 million views. And people started to like come in and see from this content. They were like learning that we rented these cars. And it was really interesting because I had zero interest in social media. When I say zero, I mean like negative interest. So these videos started to like get me exposure, right? And they were educational. We never ran ads on them. They literally had no intention at all for anything other than for me to show the customers when they rented the car online or when they booked it early. I would send them the video and get them prepared to like drive this car, because it's like it's a long process. I mean, if you drive a Lamborghini, you have to learn a new way to drive a car, right? So it's a very different approach to, you know, most people's experience in operating a vehicle. So the social media is working, and I decide this is a good thing. We're gonna keep it going. At the time, I hadn't had like a big hypercar yet. And this is like probably like early 2016, maybe even almost the summer. I meet my now business partner, Kirk, at a wheel shop. I was changing the tires on one of my cars. He had an Aventador. And basically I went to him and I was like, hey man, like, do you want to loan me your Aventador? I want to rent it. And he was like, no, I just actually sold it. But what do you mean you want to rent it? And we had these conversations for about 3-4 weeks. He was an orthopedic surgeon. He still is. And wasn't really going anywhere. Kirk, later I find out, was just kind of like buying and selling cars as a hobby. He'd buy 1 or 2 a year, whatever it was. One day, I just texted him out of the blue and I said, hey, will you loan me $300,000 for 20% interest on a 3-year term? And like, knowing Kirk right now, I probably could have got him at like 9.5%. But anyways, I threw out 20% and he just responded with yes. So I found an Aventador that at the time, this is a long time ago. And if you guys have known cars for a while, there was a period in 16, 17, I don't really know the year, that O'Gara Coach was kind of like a bad business, right? They had a lot of issues. They were going through like a bankruptcy or something like that. And they had put a 2015 red on black Aventador Roadster from $435,000 down to $350,000 to sell it like in 1 second. So I called Kirk. I said, look, man, I'm going to put down $50K. I ended up putting down a little bit more than that because there was like some fees and some other stuff. But I put down a little over $50,000. You put up the $300,000. It was $15,000 a month car payment. And I said, boom, here you go. And Kirk's thinking like, this kid's going to make me 1 payment, 2 payments, and he's going to get it repoed. I'm going to get an Aventador for like $280,000. I'll be able to sell it for $400,000. It'll be no brainer for me. So we do the deal. We buy the car. And I had a red Huracan at the time, and I was so stupid. I wrapped this beautiful red Aventador white. But I had this car for a while, and it made an enormous amount of money because nobody knew renting Aventadors was profitable. No one in town had one. This was like the first Aventador for rent in Vegas. And I wrapped it white. It was super sick. And I made payment after payment after payment. So 4 months in, Kirk comes to the office, and he's like, what are you guys doing here, right? So he meets Denise, he meets, I had an employee at that time, his name was Josh. So he meets both of them, he really gets to know me a little bit better. And he's like, look, I want to buy into this business. I like this business. So essentially, long story short, we made a deal, $1 million basically for 50%. And the $1 million was paid with 4 cars. So we had a 650, a 458 Spider, the Aventador, right? So that loan went away. And then I can't remember the last one, but it was 4 cars, essentially totaling $1 million in value. And it was like a catapult. Like it was just like slingshot me into the leaders of the city. Nobody could mess with us. I had the top cars. I was renting them with limited miles for all-in prices. It was like a flat fee, no additional, bullshit. It was a simple process. And social media kept doing well. Like we started Instagram, my wife, we had 40,000 followers on Instagram, like in a matter of, like 6-7 months. And it was super cool. Like people started to talk about it. And then I got the wild idea. This is like mid 2017. I went to Kirk and I was like, Kirk, I want to buy a Bugatti. And he was like, I don't even know if anybody thought that I was serious, but I was like, yeah, I want to buy a Bugatti. I found a Bugatti in Arizona. It's red. I want to buy it. I want to put it on the website and I want to rent it. And he was like, Houston, you're crazy, but let's talk about it. And so anyways, we ended up agreeing that buying a Bugatti was a good idea. And so we buy this Bugatti. We ended up with the Mansory car, not the red one, which is a great thing because the Mansory car was way super special. And I fly to Miami. I buy this car and I sit in it and I immediately call him. I said, Kirk, sorry, man. Remember I told you I was going to rent this car? That was a bad idea. I'm never renting this car. I'll pay the car. I don't care. We split it. So I said, I'll pay you back, or we'll do a loan, or we'll do something. I don't want to rent this car. And so basically the Bugatti became kind of my marketing. And like no one had seen that. So I did put it on the website, right, for rent, $25,000 a day. It was the real car, it was in the showroom. I started making ads that people could come and see the car, and we made YouTube videos with it. And that's when I met Damon from Daily Driven Exotics. He had like 100,000 subscribers at the time. He came in and he went to another rental car company in town trying to rent a car, but he was from Canada. And so I was the only one who had offered international insurance. To this day, I actually still am the only one. But I created this insurance policy so that I could sell insurance for exotic or supercars to people that are from out of the country. So that rental car company refers him to us, and we make a kind of like some deal, and he comes in, he's like, I want the Aventador and some other car for 24 hours. I want to make some videos with it. And I was like, dude, listen, man, I've got almost half the subscribers you got, man. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, whatever. I don't want to go tear up the car and do all this stuff. So we make this deal to where if I don't get $10,000 in direct revenue from his rental that I was giving him for free, he would pay me the full price. And so it turns out that he had a lot of Canadian following, and Canadians love to rent cars. So yes, I got more than $10,000 in rental. And that's what helped mine and Damon's relationship start to spawn, and we became friends and, you know, I guess co-workers, and we both had a common goal. I had a lot of crazy cars, and he had, you know, a YouTube channel that he was trying to build up. And so he called me in like 2-3 months in and was like, hey man, do you want to do some donuts in the Bugatti? And I said, obviously, that'd be super fun. He was like, couldn't believe it. So I bought him some plane tickets. He flies out here, and we make the donut Bugatti video, which is epic. It's a super sick video. It gets millions of views. And in that same week, we filmed like the Uber video where I picked up a lot of people in the Bugatti with Uber. That one got a couple million views. And then I met Alex Choi, and we were making all these videos, and I'm putting all this content on these guys' channels, and I get arrested in my Veyron. And that just is like this massive, huge, big ordeal where I didn't know how to process it. It was kind of stupid. It's on the videos. You guys can Google it if you want. But anyways, I got arrested in the Veyron, and it kind of like made like local news. It obviously went viral on YouTube. And from there, I mean, royalty was established. I mean, I had the Royalty Exotic Cars logo on the side, and it kind of like spawned me to start my own YouTube channel. Things with me and Damon didn't work out for unrelated reasons. We just had a difference of opinion on a lot of stuff, and we're both alphas, and we fought like before our big fight, and it was just a big mess. So anyways, it was a good working relationship. We both benefited from it. He actually did his million subscriber video here. He did some donuts in the back in my parking lot, and you know, we kind of like, we're not on good terms now, but you know, we ended things, and we both went our separate ways, and we both have our independent businesses, you know, and I think we helped each other grow those, and it worked out well for the two of us. So as I keep renting these cars, I just get more traction and more traction. I make the oil change videos, and social media just takes royalty by storm, and now we're here. So we have close to 1 million subscribers. You know, we're on the closer side. We're almost to 700, and royalty becomes more of like a marketing company versus a car rental company. Now we still have these great cars to rent, and things are going well. We've got all the crazy supercars, the SVJ, the STO. We always make it a point to have the best of the best, but royalty has proven that the content is more valuable than the business in today's world. So royalty started off as a car rental business, but now has become more of a national brand, maybe even a global brand. And I'm excited for the future because we're doing things to create new entities and new like ideas with transportation. I have a lot of great things coming in aviation. The last couple of years, I've been super focused in aviation. 2 years ago, we picked up a helicopter, and we're doing strip tours. And I'm looking at getting into, obviously, if you guys have watched the channel for a while, my airline, not like an airline, like commercial airline, but we're looking at picking up a Falcon aircraft and doing some commercial services that are scheduled, which would be considered kind of like an airline. But I want to transition royalty from car rentals into an all-around luxury transportation company, branch out and kind of go along the lines of, more of like a one-stop shop. Car rentals are cool, but as the price of cars inflate, it's impossible to manage the rentals. I mean, if a Huracan when I first started was $250,000, now it's like $400,000, and people don't want to pay the same inflation, 60-70% inflation rate on the rental price. So it's not really correlated, and so we're working through those things right now. But a lot of other companies in town are having a hard time with the current status and the pandemic and all that stuff. So I think we'll be the strongest and we'll be the last to survive this next couple of months and maybe even years, right? We've seen the economy pull into a recession in the last few weeks. So I'm excited because when there's a downturn in the economy, right, the strong survive, like the real players, right? I've been in this since 2015, and there wasn't really a slow economy back then, wasn't really a busy one, but we've seen it come up and now we're going to see it come down. So this is 2022. I can see by 2025, Royalty being the only supercar experience in the country, or at least one of the only ones. For sure, Las Vegas. But I'm kind of going to wrap this up because I've been talking for like 30 minutes, and this is obviously my origin story for the business. And I'm not really sure, where it's going to end up, but my future is, it's got a cool path, and I'm excited to do it. Like, I have a lot of energy and I have a lot of like excitement towards Royalty. I obviously have Houston's Hot Chicken as well, but like Royalty's my baby and I always give it the most love, if that makes sense. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening to this abnormally long story. And I hope you guys can subscribe and give me a thumbs up on this video because talking for 25 straight minutes is actually really hard. So you guys enjoy your day.